Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Andrei. Andrei is the VP of Engineering at Zillow Group. Andrei, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mustafa. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm pretty nice to participate here. Thank you.
So, give us a brief background about yourself. You have an aspiring career with Google, Apple, PhD in computer science. But, for the viewers, what you've been doing before joining Zillow.
So after I graduated my PhD from University of Manchester, United Kingdom in computer science, I has been working in search for last 15 years, and I started at Google when Google was earlier. We built like big improvements into search algorithms, and I built Apple Maps search, and also improved was key contributor to Apple's iTunes and App Store search. And after that, I was leading search teams in Walmart Labs, eBay, and now Zillow. So I was always was building heavy machine learning AI-based platforms, consumer-facing platforms for hundreds, millions, billions of users, mostly search-based. But then, search is very related to recommendation. So everything related, like how we can extract data and serve them to users.
Interesting. So, unfortunate times because of COVID, and many industries have been hit harder compared to others. And for some, especially like Zoom, where we're recording this, right, it has acted as a catalyst, right? So are you seeing any difference in the search patterns in regards to real estate, urban property over suburbs, or the commercial dropping, or any data insights that you can share with us?
Yes, you can, like Zillow, very open company. We have a Zillow research blog, where our economics teams publish all insight, what you say in full details. And certainly, like when the pandemic started around April, there were a lot of change in consumer behavior. Like many listings were out of they were pending. People changed status of their listings. There were big changes in search. But what we see now, and we have recently published several articles, we see a lot of return. Like we don't see big changes in prices, how people want to sell their listings. We see the number of listings on the market significantly decreased. Now most of them came back. So you have full details on Zillow Research Economics blog. And consumer behavior is, I think it's recovered in most of dimensions we observe.
Interesting. So, Andrei, you have a lot of experience in building teams for the last 15, 20 years, right? Teams that have worked on millions and billions of data and, searches happening on a daily basis, right? With this pandemic, are you able to manage the teams remotely in a better and efficient way? And if yes, what mechanisms or what tools are you using in order to manage the teams as well as look after their mental health? Because this is what we're getting to hear, young parents in the house, and especially if they're on the East Coast in New York, where the apartments are smaller compared to the Bay Area where it's much more area and stuff. So how are you, as a VP of engineering, how are you able to control and manage all of that?
I am a bit surprised how well we execute. I would not predict it before this work from home period, right? I managed remote team previously, I had team in Berlin, in Bangalore, and I would say it was harder comparing to what happens now. Maybe just because we were more ready to remote work. Maybe because team, I would say, more connected. But we execute pretty well, and we also onboarded new members. And I was very surprised. Before, I never onboarded any new member remotely. Right? Typically, if you hire someone in Berlin or Bangalore, you send them to here. They get like two-year classes in the central headquarters and come back. But here we did not have opportunity to onboard anyone on site. But people kind of get well working, maybe because they're also pretty senior people, so they have very big knowledge. So what I observe now, people work very well. And like I think there are several key observations, key how we do this, right? So like like it was very sudden change. It's not like we make some team remote step by step. It was a certain day everybody works remotely. What helps is like like we don't change the way we work. We still have like all the same meetings which we had before, but instead of coming to the office, we do them online. This help. I think we had pretty good like like high, very good engineering practice in teams with like good culture like of collaborative works. Also helps because once you have to move this collaboration work from on-site to online, it actually moves pretty smoothly. So like my observation for my several teams, we do pretty well. And there are certainly problems like what you mentioned before. Some people has kids and the other partner is also working, right? So, like there is a lot of problems about time because before they were sending kids to schools, now kids at home, especially kids at younger age, they require continuous attention and it's hard to hire a babysitter now, right? So like like what helps when team allows such people to be flexible with time. So someone says like like next week Monday to Wednesday I cannot work before like like before lunch, but I will continue after lunch. And like it requires a lot of time coordination, but once you establish these procedures, it works pretty well. And I know people like it's hard, but like we don't see very substantial problems because of that. But certainly, perhaps if we consider all biggest problems which we got because of people, because of pandemic and remote work, I think the hardest was for people with kids and with another partner working, and how to create environment for such people to work. It was kind of the biggest obstacle to solve, but I think we solved it pretty well.
Got it. Last question. In the COVID years, the economy has stalled, and there's a talk going on the recession. But I think with the stimulus and everything, with the money being pumped into the system, hopefully we'll have a V-shaped recovery, which many economists are talking about. But pre-COVID, U.S. states was actually going through skill set shortage when it came down to React and Node or Python developers because the economy was growing at a fast pace. Especially you can see it on the East Coast or the West Coast. And with this new administration, the cut downs on the H-1B1 visas, less and less technology individuals were coming into the country. So at Gaper, we identified this gap and, we started training a few developers on a yearly basis, right? So now with 40 million individuals that lost their jobs over the last 3-4 months, we're advising or we're marketing that, become software engineers because at Gaper, we're a firm believer that software is going to eat up the world, and these young individuals, sometimes they have a hard time understanding that no, we're in our late 20s or early 30s and we cannot become software engineers at this age. But we feel that, if you go through extensive boot camps of 16 to 20 weeks of boot camps and focus on coding, you can become software engineers. So what are your thoughts on that, and what advice you would give to someone who is forced to rethink their career, and would you advise them to become a software engineer or
Like I know it's very hard, right? Because software engineering, to be a good, high quality software engineer, you need a lot of practice, right? And we had this traditional way when people go and get like 3-4 years in computer science, right? Certainly it's big advantage. Now, from another point of view, I saw pretty successful software engineers, very productive, who changed their career, who had some career before and they decided to move to software, they attended boot camp, and they did pretty well. And so I saw there are many successful cases when someone changed their career to software engineering or even some more specialized areas like machine learning engineering and was very successful in that role. And like there are many physicists who change their career to computer science. I think it's very important for such boot camps is like to put focus first, of course, on like basic coding skills, but also to get experience for these people to get involved into real practical projects as soon as possible. because always like there is very big distance between education class and between practical projects, right? And I think good education should get involved as lab work, not very like, like give not artificial projects related to coursework, but more like some early involvement into real industrial projects. There are many different things. First, real industrial programming is very different from lab environment, right? Second, it helps to understand what you're doing wrong. Second, such boot camps have to help people to get good engineering culture, not just to learn program, but how to learn program, how to program well in Python or whatever language well, right? How to collaborate, what's the proper like like unit testing, how to make good unit testing, how to do good code review, what's a good code review. So these are very important skills for industrial programming. And I saw some camps that don't give the skills. I think a really good camp preparing people to go to industrial have to instill computer culture, computer engineering culture, besides just knowledge of Python or Java or C++ or whatever. And also very important to give people taste what are real industrial projects rather than artificial. And I believe if such people, they will focus on this, so they not just learn basic of Python or Java, but really focus how to do industrial programming, what's good unit testing, what's good testing culture, how to make test their programs, right? How to collaborate with other engineers, what's a good style of programming. What I saw, they can become a very productive pretty fast. Of course, like, some boot camps promise to do in 2 weeks, it does not work. But time what you say, I think if someone puts a lot of efforts, works very hard, is good enough to become to entry-level
Yeah,
engineer, and
exactly.
then they can move out of this.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to start coding everything on the first day, but it's, it has to start from somewhere. But Andre, thank you so much for being on the show. My marketing team tells me I have to keep it within 10 to 12 minutes. Otherwise, I would have talked to you for half an hour at least. Thank
Yeah,
you so
yeah,
much.
thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.